Ever imagine a computer so powerful it could solve problems that would take uh, our best supercomputers thousands of years and do it in just minutes?
That's the promise of quantum computing.
And on today's deep dive, we're taking a close look at D-Wave Quantum Inc.,
QBTS, yeah.
a company pushing the boundaries in this incredible field.
Making some bold claims, too.
If you're ready to explore the mysteries of quantum computing,
See if QBTS is worth the investment.
hit that subscribe button.
Join us on this journey.
Now, you've sent over a ton of research on QBTS.
Everything from financials to market analysis.
And our mission today is to figure out if they're a true quantum leap forward.
Or more of a speculative stumble.
What's interesting is D-Wave, they're not just theorizing about quantum computing.
I know, they're building and selling these machines.
Yeah, they've developed the Advantage quantum computer.
And they offer a cloud service. It's called Leap. So people can actually access this technology.
It's mind-boggling.
It is.
And they say they have a portfolio of over 60 commercial customers.
Including some big names, right? Like from the Forbes Global 2000 list.
So they're not just messing around in a lab.
They're trying to apply this to real-world problems.
Exactly. And they've got this new processor.
Oh, yeah, the 4400 qubit processor.
It claimed 25,000 times speed increase.
For certain types of
I mean, the
processor.
possibilities are endless.
Yeah, imagine that.
Okay, let's take a step back here.
Sure.
Before we get too excited about all this, we need to take a closer look at the company. So, starting with Chapter 1, Business Understanding. What is D-Wave's business model?
So D-Wave mainly operates in the quantum computing as a service market.
QP.
Yeah, QPAS.
Yeah.
They make money by providing access to their quantum computers and software tools through their cloud platform.
Leap.
Leap, that's the one. And they also offer professional services, to help customers develop and implement quantum solutions for their own specific needs.
Okay, so they're like a subscription service for quantum computing power.
That's a good way to put it.
That's pretty fascinating.
It is.
But how do they actually stack up against the competition in this space?
Well, that's where their first mover advantage really comes into play. I mean, they were the very first to offer quantum computers commercially.
Wow.
Which means they've had a head start on building their brand, establishing relationships with customers, and they've been able to gather a ton of valuable data.
Makes sense.
Also, they've built up a really strong intellectual property portfolio, over 210 U.S. patents related to their technology.
210 patents. That's a pretty big moat around their business.
It is.
It sounds like they've been strategic about protecting their innovations.
They have. And making it harder for other companies to just come in and copy them.
Makes sense. So crucial in a field like this.
Absolutely. That kind of legal protection is key. But I'll say the competition is definitely heating up. We've got tech giants like IBM, Google. They're investing tons of money in quantum computing.
Right.
And new startups are popping up all the time with really interesting approaches. D-Wave's going to need to keep innovating to stay ahead.
Definitely. So they've got the technology, the patents, the first mover advantage.
They do.
But what about the people running the show? Let's move to Chapter 2, Management Evaluation. Who's leading this quantum ship?
Well, the CEO is Dr. Alan Baratz. He's been in tech for over 30 years.
Oh, wow. A veteran.
You could say that. He's known for being a strong leader, and he's not afraid to stand up for D-Wave.
I remember that CNBC interview where he directly addressed, I think it was the NVIDIA CEO, who was expressing some skepticism about quantum computing.
Yeah, I remember that. He didn't back down at all. And I think that says something about how confident he is in the company's direction.
Absolutely. What about the rest of the leadership team?
So D-Wave has been attracting some really impressive people to their board of directors.
Okay, like who?
Recent additions include Barbara DeLullo. She's got a ton of experience in finance.
Oh, wow.
And Laura Guy, who's got a strong background in technology and innovation.
So these new additions.
It seems like they're committed to building a really experienced and well-rounded leadership team.
Okay, so we've got a CEO who's not afraid to fight for the company, a board of directors with serious experience.
Right.
But can they translate all this into financial success?
The big question, right?
Let's go to Chapter 3, Financial Health. What does D-Wave's balance sheet actually look like?
Okay, so this is where things get a little more complicated. D-Wave has shown some really impressive revenue growth.
Okay, like what kind of numbers are we talking?
Their QEAS revenue is up 41% year over year.
Wow.
Reached $1.6 million in the third quarter of 2024.
So
They are not profitable yet.
they're growing, but they're still in the red.
Yeah, which isn't totally unusual for a company in a brand new field like quantum computing,
Right.
but it does raise some questions.
What about their margins?
So their gross margin is pretty healthy, sitting at 64.27% as of September 30, 2024.
Okay.
But then you look at the operating margin, deeply negative at negative 780.27%. And their net profit margin is even more concerning, negative 783.28%.
Okay, so what does that tell us?
It means their operating costs are way higher than their revenue right now,
I see.
mostly because they're investing so much in research and development.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about their debt situation? Are they taking on a lot of debt to keep growing?
So their debt-to-equity ratio is currently sitting at a concerning negative 272.4% as of January 13th, 2025.
Okay, so that basically means...
They're relying heavily on borrowed money to finance their operations,
I see.
which could become a problem if they don't start making a profit soon.
All right, so we're seeing some really impressive revenue growth, but also some major red flags when it comes to their profitability and their debt. It seems like a company with a ton of potential, but also a lot of risk.
Yeah, definitely mixed bag.
What's your overall take so far on their financial health?
Well, they're clearly making progress in a revolutionary industry, but it's really hard to say what their path to profitability looks like right now. We need to dig a little deeper into their financials
Definitely.
and try to understand what's really driving these numbers.
Okay, before we do that, I want to quickly remind everyone to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Stock Analytics. We break down complex financial stuff and help you make smarter investment decisions. And while you're there, leave a comment with any stocks you want us to deep dive into. We're always looking for new companies to explore. But to really get the full picture, we need to look at the broader context, right? So let's move on to Chapter 4, Market Sentiment. What's the overall feeling about D-Wave out there in the market?
Are investors excited about their potential? Or are they worried about those negative profit margins?
Right. What's the word on the street? Well, it's kind of mixed.
Okay,
On the one hand, you've got analysts who are incredibly bullish on quantum computing as a whole.
makes sense. And they believe that D-Wave, being a first mover, is in a great position to really benefit from that.
Right.
They point to the company's customer base, which is growing,
Yeah.
their strong partnerships, and the fact that they're investing so heavily in R&D as signs that things are looking up for them.
So some people see them as like the leader in this potentially huge market.
Exactly.
But what about the other side? What are the skeptics saying?
Oh, there are definitely investors who are hesitant about D-Wave.
Okay, what are their concerns?
And, their concerns are valid. They point to the lack of profitability, the high debt levels, and just the uncertainty that comes with a market like quantum computing.
It's so new.
It's brand new. They argue it's too early to know if D-Wave's technology will really live up to all the hype.
And if they can actually scale up their operations to become a dominant player?
Yeah, is it all just hype? So it's kind of a high-risk, high-reward situation?
It sounds like D-Wave is a bit of a gamble, even with that first mover advantage.
It is.
So what can we learn from Chapter 5? Ownership structure. Who are the major players holding D-Wave stock, and what does that tell us?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Looking at who owns the stock can give us some clues about who really believes in D-Wave's long-term vision.
Okay.
And what we see is a mix of institutional investors, like big names like Fidelity and BlackRock,
Wow.
but also venture capital firms who are some of the earliest backers of the company.
Well, interesting.
So it seems like you have a combination of investors who are in it for the long haul, looking for that growth, and those who are okay with a bit more risk
Right.
in hopes of getting those massive returns.
So we're seeing that mix of investors, which speaks to both the potential
Absolutely.
and the uncertainty.
Totally.
They've attracted some big names, but it's definitely not a guaranteed win.
Nope.
Okay, so where does all this leave us? How do we take all this information and actually make a decision about whether QBTS is worth adding to a portfolio?
Well, that's where Chapter 6 comes in, our decision framework. We've gathered all the pieces. Their business model, management team, their financials, what the market thinks, who owns the stock.
Right.
Now we have to assess that risk versus the potential reward.
Let's break it down. What are the key factors we should be thinking about?
First of all, we have to think about our own risk tolerance.
Okay.
D-Wave is, let's be honest, a speculative investment.
Right.
They're operating in a brand new field. There are a lot of unknowns.
Lots of unknowns.
So if you don't like risk, this might not be the right stock for you.
Okay. But for those who are comfortable with a bit more risk, what should they be looking at specifically?
I think they need to weigh the potential gains against the very real possibility that it could all go south.
Right.
Quantum computing could be a game changer.
It really could.
And D-Wave could be the one leading that revolution, but they have a lot to prove. Can they become profitable?
Yeah.
Can they scale up effectively?
Right.
Can they compete with these huge tech companies?
Right.
These are all really important questions that need to be considered carefully.
So basically, potential investors need to do their homework.
They do.
Really dig into those financials.
Yes.
Understand the competition, and then come to their own conclusions about the company's long-term prospects.
Exactly. We've laid out the information,
Yeah.
given you the framework, but ultimately the decision is yours.
It's up to each individual investor.
Investing in a company like D-Wave, it requires finding that balance between optimism and skepticism. Being willing to take a risk, but also knowing that it might not work out.
It's almost like a quantum superposition of emotions.
I love that.
Excitement and uncertainty all mixed together.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that's what's so exciting and challenging about investing in these new technologies.
Yeah.
The potential rewards are huge, but the risks are just as big.
So we've really dug deep into D-Wave Quantum Inc. We've seen their ambitious goals and those financial challenges they're facing. Do your own research, everyone. Weigh those risks and rewards.
Exactly.
And maybe D-Wave will be your next big investment.
Or maybe it'll be another player in this exciting field. The key is to stay informed, stay curious, and never stop learning.
Couldn't agree more. And that's what the deep dive is all about. Thanks for joining us today.